Mr. Landry.
Mr. Chairman, Dr. Finkel, let me tell you about a conversation I had last week with a very successful business owner in my district. He had sold his business. He had created hundreds of jobs, and he was under a non-compete. When that non-compete ended, him and his partner decided to go back in the drilling business. And when they sat down and put their profile together on how they wanted to put their business and move it forward, they decided that they were going to build the largest shallow water drilling barge in the world, and one of the most advanced. And when they looked at the cost, because we got a lot of fab yards in my district, at the cost and amount of regulations and red tape that they had to do to build that barge, they decided that they were going to build that barge in Singapore. And while they were contemplating the construction of this barge and then where they were going to implement this barge, where they were going to put it out for contract, they got a proposal to purchase a drilling company, an American drilling company, for about 60% of the cost of the drilling barge that they were going to build. And they made a determination that they didn't want to do business in America anymore, that they were going to build this barge in Singapore, and they were going to float it and send it to Nigeria to drill, because it's more business-friendly in Nigeria than it is in this country. And I can tell you that the OSHA regulations are destroying our fabrication yards down there. So we're not on thin ice, we're on thick ice. In fact, it's so ridiculous that during the BP oil spill, they would make the shrimpers come in during the daytime because it was too hot for them to collect oil on the water. And when the shrimper said, it makes more sense for us to collect this oil at night, they said regulations don't allow that. Now tell me how regulations are not smothering our economy. I got to tell you, we just have to agree to disagree, but you're going to have to put more real-life examples in front of me as how those OSHA regs are trumping the unemployment, are not causing the unemployment rate to be 9% or greater, which is really not 9%, it's really 14% or greater. It's just that those people are not looking for work anymore.
Look, there's no way that, look, I know you don't want me to respond with anecdotal, cherry-picked examples on the other side, because that's not my role as a witness to tell you of all the stories I used to hear and still hear of people who've lost their loved ones because of lapses, negligence, mistakes. It's a balance. Of course, there are going to be poignant stories of businesses who have had difficulty complying with what...
But isn't that the role of the legal system? Is that not the role of the legal system to determine whether or not businesses are operating in a fair, safe environment for their workers? If people are getting injured and deaths are being caused, isn't that what the plaintiffs lawyers do? And when they go in and they impact those small businesses have a choice of whether they want to pay those types of fines and settlements, or whether or not they want to make their work environment safer. I mean, look, OSHA just issued a regulation where our welders are now going to have to wear long sleeve Nomex outfits that don't breathe, and it's 110 degrees in the shade in Louisiana. How do we keep working under those conditions? There's no waiver for that. What do we do?
If I were still there, I could look into that for you. And there are always really difficult things that government has to do where they can't satisfy both one risk and another. But again, I've got to say the plaintiffs' bar and the tort system, that's after the fact. And
but wait a minute.
There are agencies that exist in order to prevent that from happening. 3
people have passed out this summer in one yard complying with OSHA regs. Now tell me, how is there any what is the safety there?
I know that OSHA just put out last week, I don't follow them week to week, but this is the week, or 2 weeks ago, they put out a whole set of interpretation and guidance on heat stress. They're very aware that some of these It's hard to be safe and cool at the same time. It's hard to be wearing a respirator to protect your lungs and have to breathe through dusty respirator. There are all kinds of very difficult choices where if we had a little more technological innovation, we could solve some of these problems. But again,
It's hard to work and earn a living under those regulations. That's what it's hard to do.